Hello, welcome to another instalment of the Matchbook Racing Review with Don McLean and I. And we get, Don and I, to look back at what was a scintillating racing weekend with 7 Group 1s. We had the Ledger over here. We had 6 Group 1s for Irish Champions weekend. And I don't think in our preview that we did a week ago, just you and I, we came up with a huge amount of success. But we enjoyed the weekend a good deal. If there's anything, Aidan O'Brien is probably better at finding his relative winners than we were coming into this weekend. But my goodness me, there was some serious performances, weren't there, Dom?
Yeah, no, it was quite a remarkable weekend, Tom. You know, you had, as you say, the 7 Group 1s. Logician was amazing at Doncaster, just so superior to all his rivals. Pinatubo, similar in the National Stakes. And then Fairy Tale and Love and Search for a Song was a revelation. And on top of all of that, there was the Pat Smullen race at the Curragh on Sunday, which, you know, it was a special day on Sunday. The atmosphere was just fantastic, and everyone there for Pat Smullen and the money they raised, and all the lads, Ruby Walsh and AP McCoy and Johnny Merton, everybody there because Pat Smullen asked them to be there, and everyone in good form. Even though it rained, I don't think the rain put a dampener on things. I think it might have even enhanced it because everybody was nearly there outside, and the atmosphere was so good in spite of the weather. So yeah, it was just a special weekend, Tom.
I know you were there. You had the family there that day. You weren't on duty for Racing TV on that day. You were on the Saturday. But what was it like with regard to punters that would, obviously they know they're racing, but do you think it sort of reached out to more people than that? But the Pat Smullen factor and the fact that you had that incredible race, do you feel it almost transcended racing, if you like?
Oh yeah, I think so, Tom. Yeah, no, it dominated the preamble to the weekend, but also we had the top class racing as well. I mean, I don't think it took away from the fact that we had top class racing. Like Fran Berry said on Racing TV on Sunday, he said, you know, this might even save the Curragh, which is not stretching it because it was just such a feel good factor there. I was talking to Evan Arkwright of the Curragh afterwards, and he said that there were people at the Curragh that he hadn't seen there in years, so it brought the masses in, and anyone who went there, I'm certain, would have had a good experience because the atmosphere was so good and there was such a feel-good factor around the place. And yeah, look, it was nothing but positive, Tom. It was quite a unique day, I think.
They've raised a phenomenal amount of money. Well, Pat has really for cancer trials, which is great to see. And it was almost nice to have Search for a Song winning for Dermot Weld in the colours that Pat so often carried to victory. So that was great. Let's start back. We might as well go in chronological order. So we'll look back at Saturday first of all in the 3 Group 1s there, and we will start with a non-Irish action in the form of the last British Classic of the season, which was the St Ledger, which was won by Logician. Now, when we talked about him earlier on in the week, I openly said that for me, even money about a horse that had beaten Constantinople in a 5-runner race last time, for all it was the Great Voltigeur at a good time, I just couldn't quite take it before, you know, getting on the bandwagon with the Logician as the great horse that he now is. I'd sort of want to see him do it in a Ledger before I could really believe it. But my goodness, that was, for all you might look at the Ledger and again this field and say it felt a little below par. You know, this horse has beaten a horse that was comfortably beaten a horse that had finished less than a length fifth, I think it was, in the Derby in the form of Sir Dragonet. He's done it on the bridle. He's done it in a record time. And just physically, he's such an animal. They talk about, I thought Jamie Lynch did some excellent stuff on Sky Sports Racing with regard to his stride length being as long as a caravan and in covering the last 2 furlongs at the same time as Threat in the Champagne Stakes. This is a proper animal we're dealing with here. And the fact that he's won a Ledger is fantastic because he's won a classic, but he's going to be a Group 1 performer over a 1.5 miles next year, and that makes him very, very exciting. I'm fully on the bandwagon now.
Yeah, no, I'm similar to you, Tom. I thought from a betting perspective, he was no value going into Saturday because he still had to do it, and the quality of the opposition, I suppose, mainly in the shape of Sir Dragonet and also Il Paradiso, I thought they should have been closer to him in the betting than they were. But yeah, look, you know, watching it was funny because it was 5 minutes before a race at Leopardstown, so it was kind of on the big screen behind us at Leopardstown. You're kind of trying to keep an eye on that and try to watch the runners in the paddock as well before the race at Leopardstown. But no, he was phenomenal. I watched it back again since. And what struck me was the time was so good. Was it a course record time?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So and even given that it was a course record time, Frankie Dettori on the run to the line, he eased him down. Now, I don't know how much horses decelerate in 25 yards if he eased him down, but he eased him down and he moved kind of towards his left to go around the bend after the winning line. So he probably could have got a wee bit faster if he pushed him all the way to the line. And, that was just his fifth run over a mile and 6, which he wasn't proven over a mile and 6 beforehand. I think there was a little bit of a question mark about stamina, but no, I mean, and it was maybe one of the reasons why he was taken but allable at a short price, is that he hadn't proven his stamina. But it's often the case in St. Leger, they haven't proven their stamina over a mile and 6, but he obviously saw it out very well. But yeah, look, he's got so much pace. When Frankie Dettori asked him to pick up on the near side, he picked up really impressively. And John Gosling is talking about a mile and a half next year. So yeah, look, he's it wouldn't be surprising at all to see him being as good as that, and maybe even progressing from 3 to 4 over a mile and a half.
And the thing, what Jubbon and John Gosden allow themselves is time, because they have other pieces of ammunition for these relative races. Now, were this horse trained by anyone else, is there a chance he'd subsequently go and try and win an Arc? Well, I think almost certainly, because there's only one 3-year-old campaign, and there's only one Arc in said campaign, but they've got a good one for that. But in a way, it's a sort of, when you get to that level, it's sort of self-fulfilling prophecy, in that they allow themselves to get the best out of that horse, Logician, almost because they don't have to force their hand to try and win the other races. For example, if this was trained by anyone else, Logician, would he have been campaigned as a Leger horse? I'm not sure. We might have seen him earlier on in a classic. I don't know. It's amazing how it works out. John Gosden obviously knew what he was sitting on, and Frankie Dettori got the call to go and ride him in a handicap on a Thursday night, which caught him unawares. And now look at what we've got. It's unbelievable, really, isn't it? The strength in depth that team have got. We talk about it with Ballydorn all the time, of course. But I think this is a seriously exciting animal, and I quite like his Arone as well, which is not so common. I think he's a beast.
Yeah, no, I think there's an awful lot to what you're saying, Tom. With when you have other good horses, it allows you to do the right thing by the other good horses, or all the good horses, because it's like in National Hunt Sphere. If you have a small trainer happens upon a star, you want to go to all the big gigs. You want to be there. You want to give the horses chance. Whereas if you have other horses, it's like, I'm sure it's a lot easier to wait with a good horse if you think in your guts it's the right thing. Like if you have only one good horse, I'm sure it's very tempting to want him to, or her to, run in the big races. If you think, they've got a 99% there, and maybe I think it might be a better horse in this race in 3 weeks' time if we skip this one, but he's nearly there. And whereas if you have another horse to run in it, or another 2 or 3 horses to run in it, it can be.
All the horses going for a third win in succession.
Exactly. I'm sure it's easier to do what deep down you kind of think is the right thing. Although who's to say the right thing isn't to allow a Logician run in the Arc? Anyway, he'd have a massive. Like, what price would it be for the Arc if we were to run it?
I think there's sort of 12s and 14s with knocking around.
But that's probably with the caveat that allowing for the fact that he probably won't run it.
The price she is. If we owned her, sorry, I'd be running him. I'd be out to America. I'd be everywhere.
Things a race of Galway this week. He could run it.
All over it. Honestly, no. Honestly, Triumph next year. Everything, but really exciting. So Dragonet was disappointing. Mark Johnson's horses ran absolute crackers, but they couldn't lay a glove on the winner. And Sir Dragonet, I think, was disappointing, and he probably has become a bit disappointing. But they do talk about this horse being a 3-year-old still, and I think that sort of lends itself to how they campaigned him early doors. But he was, whether or not he was right, he was comfortably put in his place.
Yeah, maybe it was, maybe the ground was just on the quick side for Sir Dragonet, but look, he did have to step up, and he was disappointing on his, now in hindsight, you look back, like I backed him, so I thought his run in the 10 furlong race would bring him forward with the Leger in mind. No, he was disappointing. He came under pressure and he just didn't go forward. So look, he's a talented horse. We know that. His maiden win and his Chester win and his run in the Derby tells you that he's a good horse. So yeah, I wouldn't be giving up on him yet.
Talking of disappointments, I suppose ultimately, I think we were both, for all I happened to be keener on Magical in the Irish Champion Stakes, we were both really looking forward to seeing Mad Moon off the back of that run last time over a mile, running in a Group 1, which we thought could be his optimum trip. But was he flat, Don? What did you make of it in the Irish Champion?
I think he was. Yeah, exactly that. He didn't pick up. Like, I know he hasn't won a Group 1 race, but I thought going into the race he was a Group 1 winner waiting to happen. As you said there, I thought his optimum conditions, 10 furlongs, fast ground, Leopardstown where he was 3 for 4, and thought Chris Hayes gave him a good ride. You know, he kind of allowed the pace to get on. He dropped him in behind, riding for his turn of foot, which we know he has. He's got a miler turn of foot. And no, he just didn't pick up the turn for home, and you kind of just expected when Chris Hayes asked him to go, he'd go and do it. But it kind of happened around him a bit, and you know, he wasn't kind of impeded really. I know he was in traffic and all, but he's still a good horse. Like him, you would have expected him to pick up in traffic. So I think, yeah, there aren't many excuses from Tom. It's just he's probably underperformed all right. Like I was thinking, he had the conditions that would allow him to put up a career best performance, but I'd say he underperformed. I'd say that run wasn't as good as his Derby run. So yeah, I think on the whole, just a little bit disappointing.
Let's talk about the winner. She was good, and I think she was given the optimal ride by Ryan Moore, who was allowed to ride her with confidence because he knows how good she is. There was no Crystal Ocean, who she bumped into a couple of starts ago in the Prince of Wales, and there was no Enable, who she bumped into in the Eclipse or in the Yorkshire Oaks last time. And what she did do was prove herself on quick ground over 10 furlongs as a Group 1 filly, which, I think it'll encourage them going back up to the Arc, back up in trip, because I think before that, Plenty had probably suggested, and I would have probably said as well, that a mile and a half may be her optimum for all that she looked the standout coming into this. But she got an optimal ride, and it was a smart enough performance, wasn't it? She was well worth that victory on the day, for all Deirdre was unlucky.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Like she was well worth it. Like she was the best. She was ahead on ratings going into the race. She was the 11 to 10 favourite, so it was reasonable to expect that she would do something like she did. But she was very good. And, it was a no-nonsense ride from Ryan Moore. He got her into a nice position just behind Hunting Horn, up on the outside with nothing in front of her. He kind of kept her off Hunting Horn for all that she wasn't up alongside him. He kind of kept her one off the rail so that he had clear sailing up on the outside of him. And then when he didn't go for her as soon as they turned for home, he waited until they straightened up, until the 2 furlong marker was well behind by the time he asked her to lengthen, and he didn't need to until then. And by then he had everything on his inside covered. There was, I suppose the longer you wait, the less of a danger there is of something coming from further back, like Deirdre threatened to do, and getting you. But no, she showed that turn of foot. Like you, I thought 10 furlongs on fast ground might be a little bit sharper of her optimum. But no, she proved she had it. I thought the turn of foot that she showed was good. Like Iridessa, I know we'll come on to Iridessa now. I didn't think Iridessa had that in her armory really over that trip to show the turn of foot that she showed. She was very good. But Deirdre, you can argue she was a bit unlucky, and I wouldn't attach too much blame to Oisin Murphy. I think he tried going down going among traffic, which if it works, it's the most efficient route. It's the right thing to do. It's the ground saving route. It didn't happen. He checked her out, and the way she finished off told you that if she had got gaps, she would have run on, probably would have finished second, and might have got close to Magical. I don't think she'd have beaten Magical. What do you think?
Not a chance, no. I think she'd have finished second. No disrespect to Magic One. Yeah. I think she would have finished second. And I think that's the best they could have expected, up against a filly like Magical. I think she might well have done, but no, I don't think she would have won. I think there's a wider point here to make as well, is I'm going to come on to the Galileos who won for Aidan O'Brien across the weekend. But, what he does ensure in these races, and he ensured it in the Ledger as well, for all that, he didn't have Logician in his care. But Hunting Horn went out to make it a true test at the trip. And what you get, they provide proper tests as a rule, don't they? Which tends to suit his horses very, very well. And he sort of ensures for his lot anyway, there are no hard luck stories. And, he had the 1, 2, 3 here. It's good to see Anthony Van Dyke run a proper race again, I thought, because he was disappointing in the King George.
Yeah, it was back on good ground. And just to expand on what you're saying about the way the race was run and the way these races are, like, you want to, like, from a racing point of view, you want to truly run race. You don't want to dawdle over 10 furlongs and then a sprint, or a dawdle over, a mile and then, it turns into a 6 furlong race. You want the race to be run a truly run race over the trip over which it's been run. And yeah, look, if Aidan O'Brien has 2 or 3 horses in a race, it makes sense that 1 or 2 even go forward. And then it also minimises the potential for bad luck in running. Once the field, there's a good pace, a solid pace, the field gets stretched out, everybody takes up the position they want to. Whereas if there's somebody in front dictating a sedate pace to suit his own horse, then there's a danger of, horses getting in each other's way in behind, and that's never rarely satisfactory, unless you've backed a winner, of course. It's not satisfactory. And the wider point on Deirdre as well, like, it was great that she was there, great that it was the first Japanese runner ever in Ireland, so great that she got there, great, there was a good Japanese interest around on the day, and great that she ran as well as she did as well. Like, if she'd have finished second last or last, it would have been, that's a pity, she didn't, she just didn't perform. But hopefully it'll encourage the Japanese and other foreigners to have a look at the race on it this weekend, and even at racing over here in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great she showed up and ran such a good race. And just, I know Aidan sending horses forward doesn't, or like a hunting horn in the race, doesn't negate any bad luck stories, because, of course, Deirdre was a touch unlucky. But what they just know, they're a well-oiled machine. They know where to be in their respective races as well. I'm pretty certain that they know what's going to go forward, and also within the first furlong, they know where they want to be in the race as well, to ensure that it's run best to suit those. And it just all worked perfectly for Magical, or so it seemed. You mentioned Iridessa. I got her wrong. I just couldn't see her winning a Group 1 over a mile, and a test at a mile ultimately proved it was what she wanted. It's weird, because if you go back to the Guineas in the start of the year, I didn't think we'd end up here, but we have. And to touch on Lauren's, she wasn't quite right, bless her. That just isn't her, for all it's been tougher this year, I think, as a 4-year-old.
Yeah. Like, I don't think Hermosa and Lawrence cut each other's throats. They both wanted to go forward. It was possible, as we said before the weekend, that they would both go forward. Lawrence in stall 2, Hermosa in stall 6, and that's the way they raced. They both went forward. I think they set a good solid pace, and the fact that there was a chance that they would bring the likes of I Can Fly and Iridessa into the fillies who get further. And like you, I thought Iridessa, I backed her in the Guineas, and after the Guineas run, I thought she definitely runs further, at least 10 furlongs, maybe even a mile and a half. A run over a mile and a half was disappointing before that. For all that she was great over 10 furlongs in the Pretty Polly, I thought 10 furlongs would be her trip. But no, she showed a turn of foot over a mile, albeit off a strong pace, that I think it was new for her. I didn't think she had it. That talent to show the turn of foot that she showed, but she did, and it marks her as a classy filly, and won over a strongly run mile, or even a mile and 2 now, going back up and trip with that turn of foot. That'll be a weapon over a mile and 2 as well. But she was very, very good. And yeah. Wayne Lorden as well. She's run through 3 Group 1s now, and he's ridden her in all 3. I
was gonna touch upon that, because when did he take that job? Was he Watchman before, out through and through?
Yeah, and Tommy Stack, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a good move, isn't it? Ultimately, I can see why because yes, he probably has fewer rides. I don't know. I haven't compared it, but I mean, he's won a classic. He gets on some serious horses now, doesn't he? So I think all in all, he'll look at that and be delighted with the move that he's made, and it's another one. And he can mix it up with Joseph and Aidan, and. I think he'll be pretty delighted with where he is now, Wayne.
Oh no, absolutely, and like he's very good as well. We've so many high class riders here, and like it's going. He rode Hydrangea to win the last year, to win the Guineas and the Matron Stakes. So, he's having a good time this year. Like on Hermosa as well. He rode Hermosa to win the Guineas. So, it's a good move, and he's going to be on horses in those races, be it Aidan O'Brien's or Joseph O'Brien's horses, who they're probably not going to be the first strings or the first choice. But at the same time, as Shamie Heffernan has always said, to be riding a second or a third choice Aidan O'Brien horse in a Group 1 race or a classic, that's a coveted position to be in.
Exactly. Let's kick on to Sunday, and the horse who I wanted to open this talking about, but it just sort of felt wrong to start on the Sunday. But the winner of the National Stakes, Vincent O'Brien National Stakes, was absolutely out of this world. Pinatubo, I mean, the best 2-year performance since Frankel, I don't know. You've got Frankel's 2010 Royal Lodge, Arazi in the Breeders' Cup, Tsar in the Dewhurst, Celtic Swing, Racing Post Trophy. 2005, George Washington in the Phoenix. And this could be better than a lot of them, because they are, I think, the 2-year-old performances, aren't they? But that was absolutely stunning. It was breathtaking. It was jaw-dropping. And, if you look at the form of his vintage win, it's impenetrable. But then he goes and does that. He's frightening. The question is, can they produce this horse as a 3-year-old? I quite like they've said we're going to see him in the Dewhurst, which seems likely. That could be a heck of a race, because Threat might well go there as well. He'd have to step up off the back of his Champagne win, and who knows what Aidan's going to send over. But for a horse to do that in the way he did it, and have the Balladroit army trailing in his wake, was unbelievable.
Yeah, no, it was pretty breathtaking, all right. And it was kind of the way he went clear, and Jerry Hannon gave him full lyrical waxing, and the stands kind of reacted in kind. No, it was great. Like, to watch him go and clear the field like he did, and I was kind of up on a little bit of a height, so you could see it. You could see him stretching away and leaving his rivals behind him, and just grabbing the ground. And look, you kind of, you want to appreciate these performances. Like, as you say, I some of my daughters in fact, all of my daughters at the races, and they would go, "What are we going to bag?" And I said, "You don't need to."
Not just some of them, all of them.
Oh yeah, and they were, I said, "Look, just watch Pinatubo, because you want to see a good horse in action. You don't need to back him, just watch him." And they did, and they went. It was like everybody on the race course was like, "Wow, that's some performance." Yeah.
And I love that Charlie Appleby was like, "Well, I wasn't that confident, because he got worked all over by was it Royal Crusader, who was second in the Champagne Stakes, and yet he goes out and does it on the track." Now, he's 2.25 for a Guineas, right? And Siskin's next in, who I don't know about a mile, but anyway, we'll get there. I think if he was trained by Aidan O'Brien, and it feels ridiculous saying this about a trainer who's got one of the best group race strike rates in the world at the moment, and to my mind, Charlie Appleby is a phenomenal trainer. But to my mind, if he was trained by Aidan O'Brien and he'd done that, he'd be odds on for a Guineas.
You think?
I think so. And I tell you the reason I think it is. I think there's a little bit of history with regard to Corto not making a Guineas, even though you can't explain it with this specific horse. Gaiath as well. I think Charlie's had the last couple of anti-post favourites for the Guineas that haven't quite made it there. I think there's, whether it's a hangover for that, I don't know. I think I feel like he might be shorter if he was trained by Aidan O'Brien. Do you think that's possible, or am I talking absolute nonsense?
I don't know. Can you be much shorter than 5-4 for a Guineas in September?
Wasn't Church? I'm sure Church. It was Churchill, or was he not?
I don't know. I was trying to think there was anything. Like, was Frankel? Was he odds on for a Guineas?
Just look at. I'm not saying he should be. Just the manner of the performance. But I think there is a little bit of stable weight through history that comes with it. We talk about it all the time, if he was trained by. And I know it's a silly comparison, the powerhouse that is Godolphin and Charlie Appleby compared to Aidan O'Brien. But the fact is that you can't match Aidan O'Brien's record for getting horses to come and win a Guineas and peak in a Guineas. I do think there's a chance he would be a touch, maybe not odds on, but a even money shot. I don't know if he had come out of Ballydoyle.
Yeah,
I think generous enough based upon that performance. Put it that way.
Yeah, it's like it's the double. Like any anti-post bet, it's the double that A, that he runs, and B, that he wins. Given that he runs, so what price is he to run? Like, is he a 5-1 on shot to run it, 4-1 on to running it? Like September to May.
It's a long way.
Long way, and then the other unknowns. We don't know what's going to happen in the Dewhurst at the Middle Park.
What's going to happen in the Dewhurst, Donn? If that runs, he's going to win.
Sorry, we do know what's going to happen.
No, if he runs, he's going to. We know what's going. I mean, you're just not. It was that good. Do you know what I mean? We're talking about. Potentially the best 2-year-old performance we've ever seen. I don't know.
On Racing Post ratings,
they're arguing his value. Don't get me wrong. I think. I just hope he gets produced, whatever happens in the Dewhurst, or whether he runs in it. If he doesn't win it. I hope we get to see this horse in a Guineas, because we didn't get to see Corto in it. We didn't get to see Too Darn Hot in it. We didn't, we want to see these horses in their respective races. And he strikes me. I know he's got stamina in there. I think there's a 1.5 mile winner in his pedigree. But if he's going to win a classic for me, it's going to be a Guineas. Crikey, I hope we see him there.
Yeah, no, I absolutely hope he gets there. And like I just from a betting perspective, I think 5-4 is really as short as you can be. But look, I think Racing Post ratings have him £2 higher than Frankel was at this stage in his 2-year-old career. So that's pretty high.
Not bad.
There's just, I'm always wary of 2-year-olds going to it's a large proportion of their life they spend now from September to May. So he's going to obviously develop more. His contemporaries are going to develop.
Well. That's the thing. I think Charlie, Massa went out to Dubai. I'm not saying he'll run out there for any stretch. I'm pretty sure Corto wintered there and then had the problem. So we might see this horse just go and winter there because there's often the idea that weather and that heat brings them forward a bit more. So
yeah, like it's I think that the time lag between now and the Guineas, it's too great to be thinking that any like short odds are value. Like, look, if everything goes according to plan and he goes and gets there, of course it's going to line up as favourite, whether or not he runs before then next year. But look, just hope that he gets there.
It's fascinating stuff. I'm looking here and Mum's Tipple is like 13.0, and I'm like, I mean, I know he looked good, but come on, anyway. But you're right. I'm not sat here in September arguing that 2.25 is value. I'm not saying that, but crikey, I hope he gets there. Right, let's crack on before this becomes the Pinatubo racing. Love, look, we did make the point, for all we didn't side with her, that the race wasn't run to suit her last time, and what she showed, and it's what Nick Luck in his interview with Ryan Moore, he said really that Aidan O'Brien gets them to peak for this weekend, and this was the race where she peaked, wasn't it? She was ridden with a bit more restraint. She looks a miler. She'll probably go to the Fillies Mile. She's a Galileo. She looks as though she'll be a 1.5 mile filly potentially next year. And she looked pretty good on the day. Yeah,
she was very good. And, again, Ryan Moore, a simple, efficient, top-class ride, just had her up on the outside, just behind the pace. We know she stays 7 furlongs really well. And when he asked her to pick up, the kind of, maybe So Wonderful was a little bit short of room in behind, just towards the inside. But, she's sort of watching that race again just to see how she did. I thought she did very well. It's mad that she's still a maiden. She's very high class maiden, but no, Love did it well, and Daya came up on her outside, but she was strong all the way to the line. And yeah, like in the Group 2 race, the last in the Debutante Stakes, she was probably further forward than ideal given how the race was run, and we knew that from her win at Leopardstown the time before that, she's a high class filly, and she progressed again. But no, I thought it was all fairly straightforward really. Albania was a bit disappointing. She kind of got in behind as well, and again didn't have a lot of racing room at one point, but if she'd been strong enough, she would have engineered that racing room for herself. So she was a bit disappointing, but yeah, no, the winner was very good. Daya ran well as well.
Yeah. I didn't quite realise how slight she is, and I really noticed it on this occasion, even though I was only watching on the telly. Not it's a negative necessarily, but I was struck by that. But so she did. She actually probably shaped for further, if anything. I thought Love put the race to bed with her turn of foot. But then you couple that with the fact she's going to stay further, and it just tells you she was the best filly in the race. It's a boost to Alpine Star's form, which makes it exciting. And with regards to the Fillies Mile, it makes it doubly exciting, because if we see both Love and Alpine Star there, it's going to be really interesting. Minding was beaten in the Debutante, came out, won the Moy Glare, and went on to win the Fillies Mile, and we know what she did. And Love is sort of following that path. The other striking thing is just how much she's run this year. Was that her 6th start? I think it was.
That's a 6th run, yeah. All over 7 furlongs. She started off over 7, and all her runs are over 7. So, yeah, you'd imagine that she'll improve stepping up and trip. And that turn of foot, if it can be delayed and deployed over a mile, yeah, like she's a she's from her debutant run, which was disappointing. Like, she was sent off as favourite, a fairly warm favourite for the debutant stakes. So that was disappointing. So it's a good bounce back for her, and now she's back on track. And then you're back into kind of thinking about her in the terms that you were after the Leopardstown race, that she could be, she could go and win the Fillies Mile now as well and rack up 2 Group 1s.
Yeah, and it's a point throughout the weekend with Aidan's winners. He had Blissful, Mogul, who was very good, Norway, Magical Love. A lot of those were beaten last time. I know Mogul was, and yet he gets them to peak here, and it's a big weekend for them. And I think if I'm going to learn something punting coming into this weekend, it's remember Crawley hadn't won, Ireland hadn't won, I think, was it for 8 years, the Irish Champion Stakes. But it's to remember that they're going to peak for this and not be too put off by what happened last time. And the other point on that is that Blissful, Mogul, Norway, Magical Love, they're all sons or daughters of Galileo, and his only winner that wasn't a Galileo was Fairyland, another one that was beaten last time. But he's still there, and he's sat in his box just doing it better than anyone.
Yeah, no, like it is an important weekend. It's an important weekend for everybody here. It's a massive milestone on the Irish racing calendar, and of course it's an important weekend for Aidan O'Brien. He, I suppose, in recent years, he's done well at it without dominating it to the extent that he's dominated it this year, hasn't he? Like, he's kind of, I remember even the first year of it, there was a kind of a feeling that, well, it wasn't overly dominated by anybody, So this year, no, he's cut loose this year. He's had them all primed, and look, as I said afterwards, it's a hugely important weekend for him and his team, and for Team Coolmore and Team Ballydoyle, and it's a weekend that's on their radars from a long way out. So, and like, they had a strong team going into it, but I'd say they have to be delighted. They can't have thought that they would, they could have maybe hoped they did as well as they did, but I'm sure they're very happy with how well the team has done. And a lot of the horses have, as you say, bounced back from defeats, which it wasn't a given that they would, but yeah, it's like Love. Like, I think she was only third favourite going into the race. So yeah, they've all, a lot of them have put up career bests.
And just to mention, to finish off with Search for a Song, who it was obviously fantastic that she won in the colours that are so often carried by Pat Smullen for Dermot Weld. But actually, you were quite positive about her earlier in the week, and personally, I wasn't sure. It was so early on in her career. I thought she got a really good ride in the Irish Ledger. She
did, yeah. Like, she was all about potential, obviously, going into the race, and Chris Hayes was very, very, very good. Like, she was keen in the Irish Oaks, and that was behind a sedate pace that Frankie Dettori set on Starcatcher. And what defined her Irish Oaks run, I thought, was how strong she was in the finish, given how keen she had been and how much energy she must have expended through the early part of the race without any gain. So then she went and won the Galtra Stakes at York, which was a good staying performance over 1.5 miles. She's really well bred as well. She's a 3-parts sister to Free Eagle, who's won a Prince of Wales Stakes, and I think she's a full sister to Falconet, won the 2-mile race at Sandown earlier in the year. So she's bred for class and for stamina. And another pointer towards it was the fact that Dermot Weld was happy to allow her to take a chance in the Irish St. Ledger, a 3-year-old filly taking on Kew Gardens and Capri and Southern France and Cross Country, all those top class older stayers. And through the early part of the race, yeah, I thought she was beaten after a furlong, because she was so keen and so fresh, so free. Chris Hayes tried to get her in behind. He tried to get her settled. She just wouldn't settle. So, a jockey has to make a decision then. Like, it's nearly minimizing the negative, because it's not a positive that she's so free. So Chris Hayes just allowed her stride on, seeing if she settled better in front. He allowed her go on at a point in the race where the early pace wasn't that strong, and also it's a kind of a flat part of the track. So
that was crucial.
It was, yeah. Like, if he'd done that going uphill
before they get to the 7, before that turn, and I think he probably said, "If I'm going to do it, I'll do it now."
Yeah. No, I'd say you're probably right. And as I said afterwards, Dermot Weld was probably looking at her from the stands, going, "What's he doing?" But I'm sure Dermot Weld was looking at him going, "Fair play to him, because he has to try it, because the filly's just not settling." And he could have spent another 4 furlongs fighting her, and then she wouldn't have anything left. But watching the race live, I expected that she would get to the home straight, come under pressure, and be passed. But she got to the home straight, came under pressure, and picked up. Like that was, I thought it was a seriously top class performance, because to run as freely as she did against that opposition, with the solidity in the race that comes from Kew Gardens and Southern France and cross country following you home, and to pick up like she did and stay on as well as she did, having run so keenly early on, and also made up the ground to get to the front. It was, I know she was getting the weight and getting the age allowance and the sex allowance, but it was if she, that was only her 5th run. When she learns to settle a wee bit better, there's no telling how high she could go.
Yeah. Wonder whether she'll come over for British Champions Day, whether she could be one for the long. Does he like that long distance? I don't know. Did he say where she'd go?
He didn't, but he did say he's going to be. Well, not that I heard. I think he said he's going to be patient with her. So it might be that she doesn't run again this season. But her sister Sapphire won the Fillies and Mares at Ascot. I know it's over 1.5 miles. So I'd say that's a race that Dermot Well likes, and it's a meeting he likes. So it wouldn't be surprising if she were to go and take a chance in that race, I would have thought.
Mm. Right, last question before we close this off. If you could take one horse back in your garden, out to your left, would it fit out there, Patty?
I'd say he'd have all the grass eaten in about a half a day.
One horse, one winner from the weekend. Which would you take? Who are you most taken with?
Oh, the obvious one is Pinatubo, but no, I think I'd take the filly. I think I'd take Search for a Song, because I just think she could be. Yeah, she's just watch the way she did it. Given how she ran through the race, she could improve dramatically again for when she settles a wee bit better. I think she's very exciting. What about you?
I think the excitement about Pinatubo. I was trying to work out who's more valuable. Magical, given what she's achieved. Breeding rights wise. No, I think Pinatubo is just so exciting. It's all potential. For all Logician was pretty good, but yeah, that blew me away. Don, good stuff. Thanks very much indeed.
Thanks, Sam.
Good man. We'll chat again next week. Don't forget the pod will be out again towards the latter end of this week, looking ahead to whatever race we've got coming up this weekend in the Matchbook Horse Racing podcast. That's it for Don and my review. See you again soon.